Welcome back to 4 Geeks by Geeks, the place where geeks come to geek out. As always, I'm Bozer, and welcome back to your Monday Night Geek Out sesh. Hi, guys. Hi. How we doing? Tonight, I am in a weird mood, and a weird mood for Bozer means chill radio announcer, where I just want to talk softly and sultry into your ear holes. Hey, Oceana. Long time no see. I know. I've missed you. Welcome. We got Oceana in the chat. We've got Alec in the chat. We've got a good time. We had not a real Geek Out sesh, but kind of a Geek Out sesh last week with the cast of Cloudscape, our ongoing TTRPG using the Fate Core system. And we just wrapped up season 1 a few weeks ago. And so we got together with Farles Barkley and talked about the entire season. And so if you have not been keeping him up on Cloudscape, shame on you. But also, that's okay, because you can go to YouTube or you can go to a podcast and you can catch up. Season 1's only 14 episodes, by the way. So then you can go back, and we just launched season 2, episode 15 of the entire session, or the campaign. And it's getting crazy. But I'm glad to be back doing an actual Geek Out session tonight with actually one of my oldest longtime friends. And so it's also just adding to my chill vibe, because I kind of feel like home. Like, it's just a very homey feel tonight for me. But I'm excited because he's been up to some really cool things and geeking out himself and living his childhood dream come true, because he's very talented and good at it and works hard. And so we're going to hear more about that in a moment. But first, you got to use command QOTD, which is the question of the day. James is a sci-fi writer, and so we're staying in the sci-fi theme today. And the question that I didn't update, yes, I did. I was like, I don't see it in the chat. There it is. Which sci-fi invention do you wish existed in real life? I'm sure James has quite the long list. Feels weird calling you James. I'm going to call you Jim, because I've never called you James except in a professional setting. But Jim, I'm sure you have a long list, but mine is a little shorter. And of course, it's got to be the sonic screwdriver. This guy solves every problem that you never knew you had, and mine's dead. Well, that's sad. I pushed the button. It's supposed to make a sound, and I gotta change the batteries. But yeah, I got hooked on Doctor Who, and I just loved that the sonic screwdriver fixed everything until season 4, or not season 4, obviously not 4. I guess in the newer iterations of Doctor Who, the 4th iteration. What's his name? Scottish. He's shouting from the wings. I can hear it. When he turned the sonic screwdriver into the Ray-Ban sunglasses. And I was like, I think this is a stretch. You lost me on this, writers. But you know what? They were probably in a strike or something during that time. And people like me were pulling that shit out of their ass. And that's what you get when you disrespect your writers. And we're going to talk about it, because Jim is a full-time writer and he's got thoughts. This isn't his bread and butter. But I hope you're doing well. I hope you guys are all having a great time in your days and in your weeks. Thanks for being here. But I'm tired of talking to myself. I kind of want to just vibe out with my long-time friend, James Robert Cruz Wylder. Not a stage name, actual name. Check the birth certificate. And because I want to hear what invention he wishes existed. So please give it up, y'all. Let's see with some emojis. Here's some love in the chat for James Wylder. I was like Rother. Rother. I know you. I know your last name and everything.
You do. I mean, I'd hope so at this point.
Totally. I know your address. That's the kind of friends we were.
That's true. Yeah, I'm just gonna look. You're gonna be like, James.
Is it? It's Wylder?
Wylder? Yeah.
What's the worst pronunciation of your name you've ever gotten? There's been so many. You have to catalog.
Yeah, no. Wylder is pretty bad. Wylder is pretty bad. I think I got like willed hair once, and I was just like, "How? How did you do this? How did
Silent
you do this?"
and invisible H.
just throw in a new letter in there to spice it up. Yeah.
Some fire from Oceania. You know, you gotta shout out for the locals.
Yeah.
It's us locals. She's a true blue.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Oceana.
But before we get into your big Geek Out Sesh and catch up with what you've been doing since his first Geek Out Sesh, that's right. He was so cool and he's doing so many things. We had to have him back. Scroll back about a year ago on our YouTube or podcast, and you'll find his first Geek Out Sesh. And really get to know him, where we talk about his sex fiend craziness and how he got arrested for a DUI. But just kidding, none of that happened. None of that happened.
Wow.
What sci-fi invention do you wish existed in real life?
My answer is like going to be super ironic now.
Was it going to be a Sonic? Did I steal your answer?
No. Though I do feel like I need to stick up for the Sonic Shades at some point.
Okay, I'm ready to hear it.
Yeah, but okay. So I feel like my answer would have been like way more like cool and interesting, like not that long ago. But I feel like as I've kind of like mellowed out a little bit, and maybe just the fact that I really need like good drinks when I'm working on things.
Mm-hmm.
I would like a replicator from Star Trek. Just like get a perfect cup of tea and coffee every time.
Ooh. But you would have to know like which coffee? Like would you have to think I'm not as familiar with Star Trek, forgive me.
Oh, it's like they have like the little machine on the wall, and then Picard looks at the wall and says, tea, Earl Grey, hot. And then it just appears.
But like if I order a coffee, like do I have to know from which cafe in the past or in the world that I want it to be, or is it just going to always make you the perfect cup of coffee?
That's a good question.
Because I was just watching Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy for the first time the other day. Again, forgive me. And it's that thing where she sticks her head in and she has to think about what she wants, and it just knows what you want and it makes it. But what if I don't know what kind of coffee? I just know I want a coffee.
Yeah, I feel like I actually like need to like, delve into like the Star Trek wiki now, like see if there are answers to this great mystery about, like what is it always the same tea? Did they find like a tea that was perfect? And who then was the committee that decided this was the perfect tea?
I bet it wasn't even a committee, just one Karen, Space Karen, thinking she has got her finger on the pulse of Earl Grey tea. Radio Man says, "What's up, James?" By the way,
hey, oh my gosh, glad to see you here.
Thank you for being here. I love when my guests have the supporters from your own little fandoms here. Now we're just converging worlds. It's my marketing brilliance.
Gosh. Yes.
Yeah, but sci-fi is not one of those things that you're meant to think too hard about. The moment you do, it just all unravels.
Yeah, that is true here. And Radio Man there actually is relevant here to our topic today.
Really? How so?
Yeah, he's an OG.
An OG fan of James Robert Cruz Wylder?
No, I was a fan of him.
Even better.
So we'll get into there. So
Radio Man's about to hijack your Geek Out Sesh.
Apparently, yeah.
Come on in, Radio Man. This is yours. James already had one. You haven't had one yet. He says you've written way more than I did.
That's true. I can't.
But he's done one of those things where he wrote that one big white whale, and now he doesn't need to write anymore. Well, James, if people are not familiar with your work, unlike Radio Man 1017, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do as a geek.
Okay, yeah, I'm James Wylder. I'm an author, an editor, a publisher. I've written. At this point, I have lost track of the number of books I have contributed to. Eventually, it's like you have like one short story here, you have like 10 in another. It's like, how do you count it? You wrote some novels. It's just a big pile. It's a lot of books.
Ballpark that number for me. I'm really curious.
Okay, I'll ballpark the number for you. If I was gonna guess, and this is just a guess, I'd probably say it's something like 24, 25.
I just can't fathom having enough creativity left in your brain or know enough words to even write that many things.
Well, the key is I reuse some of the words. Like the.
You're allowed to do that?
Yeah, actually. It's a secret, though. Don't spread that around.
I should read more books. I should read a book, and then maybe I would know these things.
You have a great opportunity. Actually, I'm here to like talk about one of those books. So.
Really? Is it any good?
Fascinating. I think so. At least 2/3 of it are. I'm not sure about the one by the Wylder guy, but.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll just skip through those pages. Can you actually lend me a copy, earmark those, and makes it a little easier?
Can do.
Great.
Yeah.
No, so let's talk about that wildly talented James Wylder book.
Yeah. Okay, so we just came out with a book called Warsong Cadettas. It is the final book in a series called The Battle of Phobos. And I wish I could have like a little SpongeBob graphic pop up as I did that hands gesture. It was in my mind.
Phobos.
Yeah, Phobos. And this has been a series that has been long in the making. It started at a publisher that I used to work at. It was where I got my first jobs in publishing. It was called Grail Quest Books, and
nice.
The series did not get finished because the publisher sadly went under. I started my own small press publishing house, and we eventually got the rights, and we've been re-releasing the series up until we got to the point where we could release the last finished but unreleased book, which has been unreleased for a decade.
This book has been unreleased for a decade?
It's been unreleased for a decade. It was supposed to come out in 2012. If you look at the original editions of the first like 2 books, they just say, "Oh yeah, it's coming in 2012, everybody." So
okay, now I'm doing math in my head.
Okay,
which is never a good thing. But if that was meant to come out in 2012, how early did the first 2 books in the series come out?
They came out in 2010 and 2011, I believe.
So this man before me was releasing and publishing books straight after high school?
Okay, that wasn't me. That was the people I worked for then. So I got my first jobs with them. I was working. Okay. I was doing proofreading. I was doing setting advising because I was a huge fan of the property and the universe.
Yeah.
Which I guess I'll have to
contribute to the first 2.
No, other than contributing in the fact that I found the spelling errors and.
Which are huge.
Excuse me, but I believe that juggernauts were not actually part of the setting yet because they were developed after the Battle of Phobos in response to the construction, that kind of thing.
You were an executive actually guy.
Yes, it was fantastic to have a job just going
actually?
Yeah.
Dream job right there.
Dream job, yeah.
Okay, so then how did you first get, if you weren't contributing in an artistic, with your own pen, I will say, in the first 2, how did you get mixed in to contribute to the 3rd, even unreleased from a decade ago?
Yeah, well, I had been writing, I had still been writing
Forever.
professionally at that point. I got my first professional writing job in theater. I had a short play put on, then I had a full length play put on, and so it's like had been paid for writing. I was excited about it, and I started like trying to get work into different journals and like self-publishing my own books. And at that point, like there was a problem with the third book. They had a set of 3 writers set up for it. Something fell through with one of them, and they were like, "Hey, could you come in and write a 3rd novella here? Because we need to finish the story. But just in case, you can't use the plot of the novella that was already written in case we can release it later." So, but you have to include the stuff which is included in the other 2 novellas that take place at the same time period as it, because the book is set 3 different novellas that all take place during the same time frame, and you see everything that happens through different perspectives.
Okay.
And the whole series is showing the build up to and finally the actual like climactic battle in the sci-fi universe. So it's really interesting how you have the first book that just like kind of sets up the tension. The second book, everything starts falling apart, and then by the time where you get to this third book, where I have to note, people have been waiting 10 years to see the fallout of the first 2 books. Where everything comes to a head, the war breaks out, and everything gets wild. So I worked really hard on it. I got the work done. They were really happy with it. And then it didn't come out. So
And then 10 years.
Passed.
Am I the only one sensing a bit of a conspiracy here that this is a series that you were always a long-term fan of? They needed a 3rd writer. All of a sudden, the 3rd writer goes oopsie daisy, and who's there to pick up the pieces but James Robert Cruz Wylder?
Yeah, and I was a huge fan. So
not saying that you murdered the author, but where are they, James? Where's the 3rd writer?
That we'll talk about that later.
Off stream. Body falls out of the closet behind you.
Yeah. In all seriousness, it was something where it's like I don't think it wasn't really like anybody's like fault. It was just like a lot of stuff happened in everyone's lives. And, but yeah.
But I'm glad that you got the opportunity. So then you essentially, thankfully that you had read the previous 2 books more than a normal reader would, because you were editing them and helping publish them. So you were already really familiar with the premise and the characters, right?
Yeah, and I've been a fan of like the whole thing for a while.
Was that difficult then to insert a new novella into that universe?
Yes, it was. The assignment I got was honestly like kind of a nightmare job, and I'm not sure like if I hadn't been so enthusiastic, like if I would have taken it. Because it was difficult. Like you had to let go. I had to read the novella that was canceled. I had to read the other 2 that were unreleased, and I had to come up with a new plot that like go through and scene by scene note the things that happened in the first 2, look them all in, and it turned out really well. I worked really hard on it, and they were considering just releasing the book without the 3rd novella for a while. But like not to like toot my own horn, but I did a good enough job that they immediately threw that idea out.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, you did.
Yeah. And it, my work on it got me other jobs, even though it didn't get released, because people in the industry, we talk to each other. Like, people have like a reputation with how they are to work with. Like sometimes if you work on a project and you're awful to work with, like even if your work turns out well, other people are gonna like tell other people how it was to work with you. Sometimes people like, oh, this story that you had, was so amazing. Why didn't you ever bring that writer back? And you just kind of have to go, well, things happen. It's just, and inside you're just like,
differences.
I never want to talk to that person again, actually.
Well, I cut their breaks and then they disappeared. I don't know.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, but it's like if you get a reputation of like doing good work under a time crunch and like being flexible and easy to work with, that helped. That helped me get other work, that helped me to eventually get to the point where I could then release this book. So
that's awesome. It's just like such a web of right time, right place, right abilities, writing.
Yeah.
And if y'all haven't, I do encourage you to go back on in YouTube podcast, listen to James's first Geek Out Sesh, because we talk at length about how your handwriting was the most god-awful thing, chicken scratch, that any teacher that we had growing up ever had seen. And the fact that you had all these stories within you and you couldn't get past the handwriting until, technology allowed us to do so. And now you're a professional writer. I just think that's like one of my favorite things, and I tell people about that all the time.
Hey, thanks.
So go check it out. It's on podcasts and YouTube.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think I talked at all about like what actually like the Warsong universe like is.
No. I want to.
No, I mean, the story of the book itself is fun. So it's just like, yeah. Which if Radio Man is still here. So okay, let's go back in time. In fact, to when we knew each other in school, like back 2004.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So almost there was 20 years ago. No. Holy shit, Jimbo! No. How is it? We can't be. Oh my God, we're not that old. We're not that old, right? Yes, Alex, child. You were just born, I know.
Back in my day.
2004 Dodgeball hit theaters. Holy crap.
Oh, God, I remember that.
I love that movie.
Oh, Odex! Hey!
Hey, Odex! All right, 2004, we're in high school.
Yes. Okay, do you remember the card shop in our neighborhood?
Yes, Bower Street Games.
Yeah. Okay, so I was subscribed to Scry Magazine, which was a magazine about card games. I was super into playing card games, as you well know.
I know. We bought our first Magic set together, like a starter kit, and we went even splitsies on it, and then it was too complicated for me at the time, and I was like, I want my money. Here's my... You can have the whole thing. Worst decision of my life, by the way. I
still have those cards.
Oh my God. Let's get together now and play Magic. I went now and got my own, and now I know how to play, and I love it.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
Hey. Yeah, we should. We should absolutely do that.
Okay, anyway, I keep interrupting your great story.
So, there was a Star Wars card game. Do you remember it? I was like obsessed with it.
Did you ever pull it out when we were trying to do that brief Star Wars TTRPG at one of your birthday parties?
I think I did.
Like for reference, basically.
Yeah, I think I was like showing you guys pictures.
Yeah. You had all the coolest shit at your house.
Hey.
Hey.
Yeah. So eventually, the company that made that, Decipher, they lost the license to make the Star Wars game, and
that's sad.
It was really popular, and Wizards of the Coast got the license to make it, and they made a game that did not take off the same way. But so Decipher had like these rules that everybody liked, and they were like, okay, let's try to make our own game using these rules. So they went and they got Michael A. Stackpole, who is a writer who's a New York Times bestselling author who wrote the Star Wars X-Wing novels, and a whole bunch of other great books. Like he wrote the Talion novel, which probably not a lot of people have heard of, but I adore.
No. I feel so uneducated when I'm hanging out with you because I'm like, oh wow, you're naming titles of books, and everyone's gonna know how stupid Bozer is.
Yeah. So they made this game. A group of writers, including Stackpole, got together and they made a new setting for it, and to like promote the release of the game, and also to like fill out the world so that people would like care about it, you know, because they wanted this to not just be a game. They wanted to like make other things with it, and I think they made something that I thought was really special at the time. And I mean, still do, obviously. I said at the time. That's bad wording, me.
At the time. I don't care about it anymore. I've grown.
I don't care about it, which is why I've spent 10 years trying to get this book out. So they made this game, they made this setting, and they started releasing these short stories online. And I read the first short story, I went to the card shop, I went to Bower Street Cards and Games, and I'm like, are you selling the Wars TCG? And the guy at the counter was like, no.
I can hear the shatter of your heart from around the block.
So I was so obsessed with this setting, but I didn't get to actually get any of the cards. I read every story when they came out, and they were so exciting. They had all these different people who were like telling different parts of the world. They were showing different perspectives of it. And I think actually it was pretty formative on me as a writer, the way they were telling the story of this world, because they didn't just have one perspective. It wasn't just like all the stories follow one character. We get to like explore how this world interacts with each other and how the different, you know, peoples who live there affect each other, and how their whole perspectives on each other completely don't mesh.
Like,
you know, it's
real life.
Yeah. Yes. And it was this, you know, futuristic fantasy sci-fi setting, but it had this real groundedness to it. It had this like realism and understanding of the way that human beings work that even applied to like aliens. So I was just really enthralled with it. And unfortunately, there were some problems within Decipher. There's a whole thing, you can like look it up. Basically, one of the employees stole a ton of money from the company. They had some other issues. Yeah, and so unfortunately the Wars trading card game lasted 2 sets, and it didn't actually come out with its 3rd set, and it got canceled. And
sad day.
It was a sad day. I was very sad.
Yeah. Because it wasn't just something that you like. It wasn't just a fun rule set. Like, now you're getting into the setting and the storytelling, and like, I love that this is a setting that people have now hit from multiple angles to flesh it out. Like, that's what every writer's dream is, right? Or even from like a TTRPG standpoint, like, I've seen more and more people from their campaigns and then turning it into a video game or a book series or a short film, and just to flesh it out. Like, that's the dream, and it died.
I know.
So sad.
So when I got to college, I was playing Magic, and then I realized I was a poor college student.
Then you realized?
Well, yeah, I was like, oh man, the new set's coming out, and I realized I didn't have any money to pay for my tournament fee, and I was like, okay, I guess I'm not playing Magic.
This hobby has consequences? No. So then, are you still with me? Can you hear me? Can you see me? I'm hiding you for 1 second.
Yes, I can hear you, Clem Fandango.
Okay. So then you couldn't pay your tournament fees. So then what?
Yeah, so I couldn't pay my tournament fees, and so I looked online, and I like was like Googling games I'd liked, like trying to be like, I don't know, maybe I can like try to get some people into like this game I'd play. And then I Googled the Wars TCG and I was like, holy crap, I can buy like a case of decks of this game for like $10, including shipping. And I was like, yeah. And I had this whole plan. I was like, I'm going to get these decks. I'm going to like put all the short stories and like the soundtrack and everything. Because they made a soundtrack too, which is cool.
So cool.
And put it on, burn it onto like a CD. Because this was back when everyone still had a CD drive on their laptop. You know?
Oh, yeah. And burnt CDs.
Yeah. So
Alec,
I had all the
when you copy music onto a disc. It's called burning, but there's really no fire involved. Just so you know. Sorry, continue. We have youngins in the chat sometimes, and they need help.
Yeah. So I started burning the stories and the soundtrack and the rule set, and I put those on a disc, and then I would like go up to people and be like, "Hey, do you want this like free deck and like the CD that has like a bunch of short stories on it?" And people would be like, "Yes, I would like free stuff." And I was able to build a club of people to play this game with me. And
Jim, you're dangerous. You could be a cult leader with that kind of work ethic. You basically created a Wars cult on campus.
No.
You proselytized. Oh, no. You taught. You instead of a pamphlet, you said, here's some cards and a CD. Listen, we meet on Thursdays. Bring a friend. We have cookies. Oh my God, you are a cult leader.
Wow.
Who knew?
Great. Thanks. Thank you.
Add that to your resume. It's a good builder.
Cool.
How many people did your cult get up to?
So, okay, we started playing the game for a while, but actually, eventually what happened is one of us found, I can't even remember if it was me or not, that there was a Wars role-playing game.
Oh, fuck. And that's the end of it.
And then
mine blew up.
That was when people really started joining, and we got about, I think at peak, we had like 26 people.
Oh my God!
On a campus of like 1,000 people, that was a lot.
Oh, huge! I went to school for theater, so math and I aren't friends, but that's a percentage.
It is. Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, and coincidentally, and like completely unrelated, because these two things were like they were happening like on separate train tracks where we didn't know the other was doing something. They were Grail Quest Books was deciding to bring was in negotiations with Decipher to make a book series based on the setting.
I can literally feel your heart rate like increasing at this time of your life.
I know, right? So I was really excited when I found this out. And so for this weird brief period in college, we were like, there was this group of people with me and we were all obsessed with this. We were like writing fan fiction together. We were playing the card game, which the card game is great, by the way. Like, I see Radio Man says, yes, the game mechanics were great. It was a fun game. He's right. It was a fun game.
Maybe don't break down the entire rules, but like, what's it similar to? Is it similar to Magic? Is it?
No. So the thing about it is that like there are a lot of games that just copy Magic. Like if you played like Lorcana is like, it's a good game, but it's very much kind of Magic, you know?
It's like, copyright infringing Magic.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of other games like The Spoils tried to do like it's Magic, but it's more tournament friendly. The Star Wars CCG and the Wars TCG, they're very different. The whole game is based on trying to deck your opponent, basically. Everything in the game is going to, when you do damage to your opponent, it gets rid of cards in their deck. And so a lot of the game is about trying to get cards back into your deck and trying to cycle things in and out.
Like once you're out of the other cards, your life points. So like once you run out of cards in your deck, then you're done.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
It's really elegant too, because you don't need like a pile of like dice with you to play,
or some weird counter or a special board.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm now also sad this game doesn't exist anymore, but we can still find it for $10 on Amazon, maybe the entire case of cards.
I single-handedly increased the price at that time.
I bet you did.
I know it's a little more expensive now. It's still really cheap though. Like you can get a lot of cards for not a lot of money.
I'm blaming Jim. I'm writing this down though.
Yo, go ahead. Yeah, blame me. It's my fault. You know.
We can start our own local chapter of your cult.
Oh, let's not phrase it that way.
Wait, you don't want James Robert Cruz Wylder, cult leader, on the internet as an audio clip?
Please, no.
Is that?
I mean, it's happened. I can't.
That counter.
You've already done it to me.
Productive.
So.
We were talking about how great your reputation was. I thought it could use a little tarnishing at this point.
Cool. Thanks.
You're past 30. Thanks. It's time. It's time.
Okay. Cool. We'll get on that then.
So you're playing this game, and at the same time, they're starting to talk about creating these books.
Yeah.
And so then how did your worlds converge?
Because I was an obsessive fan. I liked every single post. I commented on like their Facebook page all the time. I just interact. It was impossible to not know that. And I invited the writers to come to the convention we ran at our college.
Really?
One of them came.
That's how you do it. That's a hustle.
He did a reading from one of his books. It was great.
Alec, gotta say, I was kind of thinking the same thing. I was like, that's kind of like Alec with FGBG. He just won't leave us alone. For Geeks by Geeks. Hi, it's this channel that you're currently on.
Yeah, no, I'm terrible with acronyms. It's like legitimately a curse. Like you can just like say like the most obvious acronym, and I'll be like.
Here, I'll put our logo up so it's a little more obvious for everyone.
Yeah, no, I see that. Yeah, now that I see it right there, I feel like I should have. You know, I always feel like I should have put acronyms together.
It's not your fault.
I just have to. Yeah.
It's some like childhood trauma somewhere. I don't know where I want this. Let's just put it back where it was.
Yeah, it's just weird how sometimes like there's just a thing where like your brain just like doesn't grasp it for some reason, and like. You know, it's just weird when you stumble into one of those things in life.
Autism is a spectrum, and we think we're all on it. It just shows its head in various forms. So you were loud enough in the chat that the actual writers noticed you, senpai, and
yeah.
Like, did you have to pitch like, oh, by the way, come thank you to my convention. Here's some writing samples. I also love sci-fi.
No, the owner of Girl Quest Books, Josh Radke, just kind of messaged me one time and was like, "Hey, I kind of could use like someone to like fact check one of these books who like knows the setting. Do you want to like proofread it and look at the facts?" And I was like, "Yes."
Did you wet your pants?
I held it in.
I'm proud. I would have shat. Just shat. That's so cool, though.
Yeah, it was great.
Like, I love that it's... like, this again, I say it before, I'll say it again. This is what happens when you geek out loud. You attract your tribe, and you literally manifest this job that you wanted to be a part of, this world that you want to be a part of, by loving it so hard.
Yeah. And it's so great because like I've now had the chance to like expand like the world that I've cared so much about for so long.
Mm-hmm.
I have thought so much about this setting, which there were all these people who put all this work into making it what it was. As Radio Man here wrote stories for the game. He wrote some of those original short stories, and he also hosted they did a podcast about the show. And like, this is a podcast in like 2004.
Oh my God, that was just called radio back then.
Well, it's weird because it actually was kind of innovative for the time. There weren't really people. Yeah, like I like into that. Like,
they probably had to record on actual tape.
I don't know how they did it. So
that's so cool. And Radio Man apparently invented force drain.
Yeah, that's the getting rid of the cards in the deck. They called that force drain. Now they called it energy drain in Wars because they didn't have the force. But
copyright. Lucas would have ripped them a new asshole.
Yes.
Oh, said no. We record on digital. Okay.
Yeah, he's got you there.
Okay. Well, now again, Radio Man's about to hijack your Geek Out sesh. I think he just needs a Geek Out sesh on his own. Hit me up, Radio Man.
He's a cool guy.
Talk to me on Insta, and we'll replay this whole thing, but from the flip side, and you're in the chat. Okay, so now what year is that again? By the time that you are now writing, or first you started publishing, but then how did you connect from publishing and doing some of the editing and fact checking to actually writing for the series?
Well, I think I covered that a little bit, where I had because I'd been working, like doing the proofreading and doing the fact checking, I was there, and when this opportunity happened, when the writer dropped, I was just in perfect prime position. And so when all these years later, like when I get messaged by Cass and Josh Radke, they're a married couple. They both ran the publishing house. They messaged me and they're like, "Hey, we're not going to be able to get this book out. We think that we need to pass it on to somebody who's going to be able to do that. We'd like to recommend you to Decipher to do this." And I was like, "Yeah." and
all these things falling into place for you.
Yeah, it took. I mean, it took a while, obviously. Yeah. At that point, I kind of moved on from the idea I was gonna get to write anymore for it, which I was sad about. But these things happen. It's life. I'd written licensed Doctor Who stuff at that point. I was doing pretty well for myself, and so I got this opportunity. Decipher was like, great, yes. And we talked about how to do it, and we started getting more stories out, and we've gotten to like expand things. We've got more stories that are going to be coming after this, and now we finally finished this first storyline. We've got more stuff coming, and we did like a whole bunch of like little side stories, which are kind of go the same way that the original stories did, of like expanding things through different viewpoints, going along with this big story. So it's been a lot of fun.
That is so cool. How did you guys get it to publish 10 years later? Was there some sort of catalyst, or just you guys grinded and made it happen?
Yeah, it was just that I kept working on other things. I've always felt that I should never put all my eggs in one basket with like my career, because things fall through. Things always fall through. You can never count that like one job that you're gonna get with like creative industries is going to last, because things happen, and things can happen just like someone gets sick. That's all it takes. And it can be something that's huge, it can be something small, but you always need to like have things going. And because I had not relied on this novella coming out, I had not waited. I
Thank God.
Yeah. But when it happened, I was in I was once again in a good position for there because I'd shown that I could release other books. I could, manage a property. I could typeset things, and it's worked out.
And it rounds you out as in the profession, right? Like you're not attacking things just from a writing standpoint. Like, what it is to be on all sides of the table at that point when you're bringing a book together. So it just primes you to be the best possible writer that you can be.
Yeah. And I mean, it's during those, like, all the many years, it's not like I've not, like, made tons of mistakes and gotten, completely flubbed books and that sort of thing.
But that's how you learn.
That is how you learn. Yeah. Man, I've had some big bombs in my life. It's we don't talk about those, but you just make a book.
Let's talk about it. What's your worst book that bombed?
My worst book that bombed. Let's see here.
Do you have so many to choose from?
No, it's okay. So I'm actually gonna go like sideways a little bit because it's hard to like say that my books bombed because while I haven't lost money on a book yet.
Okay.
So I've had ones that have disappointed me, and I've had plenty where like they sold and I was like, wow, this is all it's doing, I guess. All right, so they've been disappointing. But the worst project I've had is I got contacted by someone who's a friend of mine who was producing music, and we kind of came up with the idea of doing like a spoken word poetry album because I'd released a few poetry books that had done pretty well. I wrote a poetry book about Doctor Who that really took off.
The eloquence of
that was actually like, that was my big one. That's the one that got me a Wikipedia page. So
yes, you have a wiki page.
Oh my, yeah. Oh, you didn't know that?
No, I'm gonna wiki you right now.
I accidentally humble bragged. Oh no.
Oh no, toss. Oh my God, there he is, James Wylder. Oh, you're older than me.
Oh my gosh.
By like a month and a half.
Yeah, that's that extra experience.
Best known for their work on multiple Doctor Who spin-offs and the original series. Oh my God, they don't even specify Doctor Who books. It just sounds like you wrote on the show.
Thanks, Wikipedia.
Early life?
No one point that out to Wikipedia.
Let me fact check Wikipedia on early life. Wylder was interested in writing from an early age, noting they forced their sisters to write stories they had created before they could write.
Yeah, no, when I was really little, I was like, I had my sisters, I would tell them stories and have them like write them down for me. It was very nice of them. I think that anecdote sounds a little less cute on Wikipedia.
Forced them at gunpoint to write stories that they... I don't remember that part of our friendship, but you didn't ask me to write. I had great handwriting, by the way. I could have helped you.
Well, that was literally before I like knew how to like write words at all. As soon as I knew, I did it, and just no one could read them. But I did it myself at that point.
Thanks, Alpha Smart. This show brought to you by. Anyway, we were talking about something very important. How through Doctor Who, the eloquence of time, you're bombing. Spoken word.
Oh yeah,
poetry.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. So I went in. It took a bunch of sessions to record this. I recorded, all these poems. We mixed them. We did all these takes over and over. It took lots of hard work, lots of money. We got it done. We put it out, and
there it's sat.
Yep, it's a few people have bought it over the years, but I don't think it is ever going to make back the amount of money that we put into it, thinking like, oh, people will buy this.
Well, your cult worked out so well when you were handing out music. You thought there's something onto this. I would have thought this would work.
Yeah,
What year was this?
I'm gonna Google my own thing.
Google. He's got to Google himself. Let me check your wiki page.
Oh, cool. Thanks. It was called That Towering Blue.
That Towering Blue. Your Wikipedia page needs some bolstering because it doesn't have like publications and works yet.
Well, it's funny how like Wikipedia has like weird standards for like what they let on and what they don't.
I wasn't aware they had standards. I thought you can just go in and change it.
No, they will delete a lot of stuff. It looks like it was 2016 that this came out. So
okay, and I'm trying to think of like the culture of. Well, podcasting was taking off there. I wonder if you released it as a podcast, if it would have done better.
I mean, if it were released it for not money, I'm sure it would have done better. But
if you gave it away, like your Wars cult, then
yeah. But no, I mean it was a massive failure. I lost an incredible amount of money on it, and it was a lesson, though.
What was the lesson? What was like the main thing you took away from that?
The main thing I learned from it was that I should be more cautious about how I invest in my projects, because instead of like basically like doing a test run, instead of seeing like if I like record one poem and release it, what will happen? Will anyone even listen to it for free?
Mm-hmm.
Like if I do that, and but instead I was kind of just like so caught up in like, oh, I've released these books, they've done really well, I've done poetry readings, they went really well, people bought the books after the poetry readings, I have a
Wikipedia page. Who wouldn't buy my stuff?
Okay, now no. Yeah,
but that's interesting.
Yeah,
you got caught up in it.
Yeah, no, I did get caught up in it. And I thought like, oh, like obviously like these other things have been successful, I'll like just keep being successful with this new thing. And it wasn't, it did not go well. And it did teach me like, oh, I need to like actually like think about things. I can't just like go on vibes.
The vibes are rocking. You know what? This
Yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, this feels good. It's like, oh, everything's coming up Millhouse.
And that's got to be one of the most frustrating parts of like the career genre you're in, like the creative side, is things can work well, and then just because something in the past has worked well doesn't mean that you're golden child for the rest of your career.
Yeah, and it's not on that, but I did like get success go to my head a little bit at one point in my career. It was after like the Doctor Who poetry book came out, because I had been in like the New York Daily News. I was like getting like all this like coverage places. Like I was like having like all these like things on the internet about like how cool I was, and there was like this, I know, and there was like this period was like, yeah, I am the shit, actually. And it's funny because as soon as like the 15 minutes of like mild fame
in the Doctor Who poetry writing scene,
I was actually the number 2 Doctor Who poetry writer back in 2013.
And not to discount how good it is, it's good, and for the Doctor Who fans, they loved it. But it is funny how we can just like even let any sort of attention skyrocket our ego.
Yeah, and so like the fall down from that was like precipitous, because I was just like, oh, I really like let that go to my head there.
At least you were aware. Did it take a minute to bounce back at all, or
It did actually, yeah, because it is like it's like an ego hit, and I don't think of myself as someone who's like super full of myself. At least I hope that that's true.
I've never once had that thought about you in all my life.
Yeah,
But that was before you were a published author. You're probably a raging asshole now.
Yeah. Wow, not my light.
Ah!
Okay, nothing happened.
Honestly, I didn't notice a thing until you said it.
Oh. Okay. Well, what was I saying?
The ego hit, like the boost.
Yeah.
Like it's
yeah.
a minute to come back from.
Yeah, because it really was just like, oh, I really thought that like because it's great to think that you're great, like it's really, it does feel good to like have just everybody complimenting you, and like a lot of people like showing up just to be like, they want to be around you, they want like your attention and your time, and then you immediately, like, when it comes down and those people are no longer care about you whatsoever, and you realize like, oh, like this is all kind of like illusory, like in letting that go to my head, it's not only did it really not exist, but it allowed me to like have a lot of people who didn't actually care about me, like just take up too much of my energy, my resources, my time. So yeah, it was a lot of lessons going along with that.
Yeah, and when you attach your like self-worth to that attention, then when it goes, like you just hit the tank. Like, oh wow, I suck. You start saying I must have done something wrong. Mm-hmm. I'm terrible because now their attention is no longer. When really we have a 5-second attention span anymore. But we don't think rationally like that after that extreme of dopamine into depression.
Oh yeah.
I did not think this is where our talk would go today, but I kind of love it.
Yeah, no,
it's important.
It is important. It is important. And yeah, it's, I think actually another reason, like you mentioned depression, like, one thing I've been pretty open about with my life is, I had like pretty bad depression that, eventually I needed to like kind of suck it up and admit that like I could not deal with it myself, and like actually go and like talk to a therapist, like get medication. And
oh good, I'm really glad that's where the end of the suck it up sentence ended. I was like, no, God, no, Jim, no, you didn't suck it up. Okay.
It's weird though, because I feel like I thought like I was like, oh yeah, I'll just like suck it up and deal with it by like just not doing anything. But actually that was the thing that I was being like, that was the excuse. It actually sucking it up and dealing with it was admitting that I could not handle it myself, that I needed other people to help me.
Nice.
So yeah, and it's nice because I do think that especially when you can get really down, the things that can make you feel like really, really like up are really tempting, and
to seek them
they're
out.
And they're not good for you. But so it's good to like just be in a better place. Like my life in general is it's in a better place than it has been in a long while, and I'm happy about that. But that came with like a lot of like bumps in the road to get there, and
isn't it always?
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest lie that we're fed, is that if you work hard and do the right things, your life's gonna be grand. But I've learned, and I've seen from other people, it doesn't get to be grand until it hits the fan. Like I think it's a requirement, because you don't even know what great is until your life falls apart for a minute.
Yeah.
And it sucks, but it's part of the human existence, I think. Hey, hoes! Heroes of Evermore, HOES. There's an abbreviation there for you, Jim.
I see that. I see that now.
We're getting dark and deep here with James Wylder, published author and one of my longest friends. Literally walked down the street from me. Went over to each other's houses, tons of sleepovers.
Yeah.
Played my first TCG Pokemon at your house. Had Lego Wars. I still love those Lego Wars.
You're better at Mario Kart than me.
The one game. Everything else I sucked ass. I cheated at Duck Hunt. I put the gun on the TV.
Oh man, Duck Hunt. Oh.
I remember our Star Fox. Like, we would go into competitive and we said, what did we say? One person had to get out of their ship and try to survive while the rest of us were in ships trying to shoot. And you're just like running. You have no cover. You have no weapons. I guess you have your little gun. But I don't know why that's a core memory. And we would just do that for hours. And I thought it was so funny and so fun.
That was I love that game. I haven't thought about that in a while for some reason, but yeah.
I think about it way too often, honestly. Anytime we see Star Fox, I'm like, Jim's house. Our sleepovers would last an entire weekend.
They were intense, yeah.
Me, you, Dante. We didn't want to leave.
Yeah.
I just call my mom, hey, I'm actually going to stay one more night. Bring me some clothes.
Do you remember the time we made a short film?
No. What did we film it on?
We filmed. Okay, so it was my birthday party sleepover, and we decided that we were gonna make a short film about like a vampire hunter, and I remember even then, like watching it after we edited it together, and it was really bad.
What did we edit on? We didn't have a computer to do this shit on?
No, we did. We had what did we record it on? It was for my birthday I gotten like this really crappy digital camera that could record on it. And it recorded in like such bad quality.
But it was good at the time.
I'm not sure it was.
Even then.
Oh.
Were you the vampire hunter or the vampire?
I think I was the vampire hunter because it was my birthday.
I can imagine you in like a long trench coat with like a hat or something. Am I making this up?
No, yeah. It was like we took it was one of the trench coats in my parents' closet. Because
your dad did wear a trench coat.
Yeah.
And your mom actually, but there was less of a trench coat, more of like a winter coat.
Yeah.
Your house, honestly, your house was like the magical place of imagination. And we talked about it again on your first Geek Out Sesh. Scroll back, y'all. Go watch how I feel like I owe a large, like that secret piece of me, that geek that at my younger years that was in there. Had I spent more time with you, it would have been healthfully fostered and blossomed much earlier on. But I think into like middle school, we just didn't hang out as much. And I'm sad about it now because I think about what my life could have been if we had stayed closer during those times, instead of me trying to be some like stupid jock with some other people that were much better at sports. I eventually found theater and found my thing, so I was happy in the end. But
yeah,
man, Jim was geeking out this whole time, unapologetically, and look what has come to your life. You've attracted your tribe.
It's funny though because I also did that, but like kind of like I chose like I did track and field and cross country, which are not and I enjoyed those, but I was like always like I was very much the weird kid on the team. I actually like it's very funny looking back on it because I got bullied for like nerdy stuff while I was doing all that, and I didn't stop. But it was also like, in looking back, I was like, why did I put up with that? Like, why did I keep going? Like, you know, like let myself like get like, you know, shoved against a locker with somebody's like arm against my neck while they mess up like my sci-fi book. I'm like,
Who the fuck?
why?
I want names. I bet they still live local. Let's go jump them.
Oh, it was a time. It was a time. That was high school. Yeah.
I'm grateful that we have this culture now that celebrates the geek, and it's so much more welcomed. It's still niche. You can still be the second highest rated Doctor Who poet, and still most people will have never heard your name. But more people, far more, I think, than had in the past, or at least it's at least more celebrated, and social media has helped us with that, but also it's its own monster in a sense. How did we get here? I had a whole list of questions that I haven't asked a single one.
You sent me something like to prepare so I could like think about the answers, but I don't know, we've just been having a good time here.
Psych! I'm not going to ask you those. I mean, I tell all the guests, I said, here's a list of outline of the questions. We might not get to any of them. Like, wherever the conversation goes, that's where it's going to go. Wait,
yeah.
I'm just learning this. Is jump 'em? Is that a Hoosier thing? Do they not say that?
It's pretty Hoosier. It's pretty Hoosier.
Like,
I mean, they may say it elsewhere, but it's certainly Midwestern at the very least.
You get jumped? Oh, I'm about to get jumped. I'm finna get jumped. I do remember talking to somebody about the definition of finna and what it was short for.
Yeah.
And they said, it's something you're about to do. I'm like, but like, why finna? What's it short for? Like fitting to? She's like, no, I don't think that is. I think it's just don't think about it, Tanner. Just
wow, I've never. What? Huh? No, I didn't think about that. I just know what finna means, you know.
I'm really into etymology of words, and
yeah.
Ooh, what's that mean? How'd that get? Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh. Yes.
Okay. You know, I was just like thinking like, okay, things that like I wanted to like talk about while we're on the show.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, let's do that.
Yeah. Okay. So, we were talking like, you know, about like War Song, which I should say like I was talking about like the Wars TCG, like why is it War Song? When I started like working with Decipher and re-releasing the books, and this is not what I wanted to talk about, I just realized I needed to say it. We were like, hey, so one of the big problems with the Wars TCG is no one could Google it because it's just called Wars.
Yeah.
Like, if you Google Wars, you're gonna find a lot of stuff.
Really? Is that like a common phrase or a popular term?
Yeah. Actually, if you look at history, there have been a lot of them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Someone should talk about it.
I think so. That can be another podcast.
Okay.
We can look at Wikipedia.
Look at you popping up with SEO. Was that your idea to call it War Song?
Yeah, we did like a whole internal thing. We had like a whole ton of like, you know, people like suggesting. We were like debated which one to call it. I think my initial idea was I think it was like War Saga, and everyone was like, no.
Bad. That idea is bad.
Yeah,
eventually corner, Jim.
Yeah, eventually we got to War Song, and everyone was like, yeah. So, that's what we've been using War Song ever since. We've got like a new logo by Evan Foreman, who's this amazing graphic designer over in Scotland, who's done all the covers for our books. Like, if you see them and you're like, wow, that shit looks good, it's because Evan Foreman is like the dude.
The dude.
But I
while you're talking about it.
Yes, but I digress. So we got everything going, and then as happens, the pandemic happened.
That old thing.
And so we were kind of like we were struggling to like figure out like what to do with our release schedule, because like just lots of things were kind of like falling apart. We weren't sure we were going to have like distribution. We were having a lot of issues, and so we had to come up with like more short stories to like fill the gap. And so we kind of expanded our plans for what we were like releasing free online for people to read and explore about the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had this like duology planned, which I wrote, where one of the stories was going to be from one character's perspective, and then the second story would show the same events through another character's perspective at the same event. And
I love that, actually. That's so cool.
Thank you. We're all ready to go. We released the first one, and then the war in Ukraine happened. And I had written a speech into the second story that was very much including exactly similar phrases to a certain speech that someone gave to start a certain war. And we all kind of like sat down and were like, what do we do? Like, we're this whole series is about wars. It feels really inappropriate, and plus our next story coincidentally has all this stuff that we didn't intend to mirror recent events.
And no one's gonna believe that you wrote it first.
Yeah, no one. Like,
no.
They would. Yeah, and we were like, should we just rewrite it? And I was like, no, I don't want to like. So eventually we decided what we're going to do is we'll put a pause on that, and we're going to we'll do something else for a little bit. And we're like, what is the thing we could do right now that is going to that we'll all enjoy doing, but that can fill this gap and isn't going to be about war in a series called Warsaw. And it actually came down to the fact that in the Warsong Cadettas, the book, which you should check out at your local Amazon.com.
Use command Warsong if you're listening back on podcast. The links are below.
Yeah. So I had to come up with some characters because I couldn't use all of the characters that I would have normally planned to, because I couldn't use all the plot lines from the other book.
Oh my god.
So I ended up using some characters that I'd actually come up with for fan fiction back when we were doing like the Wars RPG at my college. And I was like, I just pulled them out of the, mothballs.
Did you still like notes and stuff? Like actual notes?
Well, yeah, I still have the files for the stories.
That's so cool. Good for you.
Yeah, I didn't use those stories, but
still.
Yeah, so I reused those characters, and then I'm like, one thing I had written in like my fan fiction was we had all done like backstories because we were obsessed with doing character backstories because that's
how foundation. Yeah, you need them.
Yeah. And so I had written like all this stuff about one of these characters in school on Gonjin, which is the future version of Mars. It's one of the big settings in the Warsong universe, is the planet Gonjin.
Okay.
They've declared independence from Earth, who they see as oppressors, and they're trying to establish their own independence, and Earth is like, no, you're not. Which is what leads to the whole wars happening. But I, took these characters, Jae Sangmi and Jae Sangyun, and the two of them are these twins who go to school on there, and eventually they grow up and feature, like in this book, about the actual, war that ends up happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wait, this concept was really strong, and I kind of sucked at writing back then. And so I was like, why don't I take this concept, this pretty solid concept of doing a school life series, because I love slice of life school life stuff. I've watched I love those anime where you just watch people go cooking or go to school and hang out, and what's the big conflict? It's just oh, are we gonna be able to cook the sea base tonight?
It's so wholesome. It's wow, I wish my problems were only that big.
Yeah, so we did that, but in the Warsong setting with these characters who we know are gonna go off and fight a war later, and people loved it. we called it Academy 27, and you can read it for free, like on our website, like arcbeetlepress.com. Yeah. We just released like 16 stories, one every week, and that went over really well. It's one of those weird things where it's just like, it's been the most successful thing we've done with Warsong since we got it, and it does not feature a war.
And it's like by accident.
Yeah, it was totally. I never would have done this normally, and you know, like I don't think like Decipher would have normally let us do it. You know, it doesn't make sense as like a thing.
But the times called for that.
The times called for it, and it worked out. It's like this perfect amalgamation that just came together right at the right time, and it's really lovely. Like a bunch of other writers contributed to it. We got all these diverse voices to like tell different stories about these people. It's like just kind of one of those amazing little things, and I'm so happy that like this universe, like the Warsong universe that is exploring the future a couple hundred years from now, is versatile enough that it can not only tell these big epic space opera stories, but there's room for this too, and we can do all of it. And I'm really hoping that like more readers are going to check this out and explore it all, because it's all connected. You know, you don't have to like read one to like understand the other.
Okay.
You know, it's not going to be like, you know, you get into like, it's not like an Avengers Infinity War situation where it's like you have to have seen every movie.
Watch them for the next 48 hours.
Yeah, but you know, if you read one, you're going to find characters who are going to show up later, and you'll get like a little bit more different things out of it.
So if I read Improbable within the Academy 27, I don't need to have already read Uphill Both Ways.
Yes. Yeah. Though I mean, I would recommend reading them in order, because they do have an order, you know.
So you start with Academy 27 by James Wylder, followed by Junk Dog Night by James Wylder. Vanishing Twin Syndrome by Dylan O'Hara. Yeah, I found on arcbeetle.com. I found all of these.
Yeah.
Y'all, I've dropped the link there. I'll include it below in the captions. This is cool. And it's got a link to the Wars RPG. And I see at the bottom here, A27, the role-playing game?
Okay, so that's... Okay, we always do an April Fool's Day project at Arcbeetle Press. It's just a tradition we've had. So this year, like this year's one was, we did a fake collection of Sherlock Holmes stories that like we had pretended to uncovered, but all of them were, you know, wild and out there. That year, we decided that we were going to do a special one-off Academy 27 story where it's a series of vignettes by a bunch of different writers, where each vignette is a different session of all of the characters playing a role-playing game on the weekends.
I love that so much. So it's a real thing I can read.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you were about to say this is the April Fool's. There's no real thing.
No. Honestly, part of the prank is that it's canon. So, like, you read the whole thing, and you're like, oh wow, these characters just playing a role playing game. It's like, yes, they actually did all meet up and play a role playing game. Deal with it.
I love the description. Introducing A27, your new home for an extremely specific and niche genre of fiction that we're sure isn't going to backfire on us at all. You wrote that, didn't you?
Guilty as charged.
How do I know? I'm like, that screams Wylder. That's funny. So, okay, sorry. What else is on your tick list that you were like, when I go on the Geek Out Sesh, these are the things I need to say before Bozer and I just go down memory lane and bullshit for an hour and a half?
I'm not sure. I think I covered most things. I mean, I covered the book. I covered. I mean, I guess the book's the most important thing. Like, I'm very, I really have worked so hard on this book. It has taken so long, and I've been so passionate about getting it out and letting people have the chance to read it, because these characters and their journey, and what it's taken them in the course of these novellas, in mine, where you have all of these people who are being thrown into this big space war, where we're seeing it from them on the ground, and all of these events happening around them that they may not understand all of the big machinations of. I care deeply about these people, and I'm hoping that other people will give it a shot and also, care about their journeys. So,
well, if anything, you've got one new reader, because I'm going to order my copy tonight, because I'm going on a trip in a little bit, and I always like to take a book.
Hey.
And I'm going to take... I shouldn't start with worst song. I should start with book 1 and work my way up.
That'd probably be best, yeah.
Because listening to you and your passion, like the fact that this was such a formidable point on not only like the card games and all that, but your writing. And knowing you as a person and how hungry you were for writing, especially early on. And I had no idea that it started. I mean, I'm not saying it started, but that this was feeding that so much. It gets me excited because I want to see what got you excited. And if you're that excited and it formed a whole career path for you, at least in a part, then I want to get behind it and I want to see what's there. We'll compare notes.
Cool. Yeah, I'm so happy to hear you say that. That makes me happy. So
I'm a slow reader, so it'll be like in 2 years, but we'll get there.
I'll just get a message from you 10 years from now being like, I just finished the first novella of book 1.
I would too. I just finished. Because it's super cheap. Well, on Kindle, it's free if you have a Kindle. At least Warsong, Cadetas. And then on paperback, it's only $18. But you get 3 writers, 3 stories. Where you wrote a novella and 2 extra short stories. Yeah,
one thing I wanted to do was, because some people had already bought the books, I knew that a lot of those same people were going to be rebuying the books just to support the project. So I wanted to give something new and extra to that. So all of the books after the 3 novellas, they each have some short stories. The first book has 1, the second one and the third one both have 2. And they, kind of expand a little bit on things where now me going back and looking at all 9 novellas, I could see I feel like this little thing could be fleshed out a little more, or given something else to make it a little more satisfactory for the readers. And that's what these short stories do, is with the benefit of hindsight, being able to add that little touch to the top. So
little cherry on top. You're like, yes, finally they fleshed that out. I've been so curious for 3 books. But they're all war songs, so it's Warsong Preludes, Warsong Streti, and then Warsong Codetas?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I just found a bundle on Amazon.
Oh.
Well, it's through Kindle. I don't have Kindle, but I'm just going to buy paper copies. And now I'm excited.
Hey.
In a completely unrelated sense, for the first time with doing my first homebrew of a TTRPG, I get really excited about these characters. And I know that's just a tiny slice of the joy and pride and the work and hours that you put into your characters. And so that gets me even more excited because I just know, I think I know I feel this much. And if it's this much, I can't imagine what it's like to feel this much.
Yeah, no, I think that's a joy that's a lot of people, I think, with how role-playing games kind of took off a little bit over the pandemic, with everybody trying to connect with each other, and that way of telling stories is just it's so great because you can not only get the joy of creating that, which is a joy, but also the joy of sharing it with other people. And role-playing games are such a wonderful way to do that, because you're sharing it not just with yourself, but like you're getting to learn about what all the other people in your group are building and what they care about. And
it's so collaborative. It's beautiful.
I know, it's wonderful.
It's wonderful. Would recommend y'all, if you haven't already, go buy this book and all the books. There's bundles on Amazon. And then go pick up an RPG. Go start with your friends. Maybe Wars, the card game, if you can still find it. You can start there and then get the role-playing game, which exists, right? You held up a book earlier.
Yeah, you can get the role-playing game. The paper copies are like probably a little pricier, but you can get the PDFs on DriveThruRPG for really cheap.
Oh.
Yeah.
God bless the internet.
Yeah.
God bless them.
Yeah, I pulled out some like 2 packs of the cards here in case
Are those unopened?
Yeah.
You still have unopened Wars cards?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I want to do like a opening card pack stream. None of us are going to know what they are or the significance except you, but
yeah, we could do that.
There you go. Next time you go live on Twitch, that's what you do, and I think you're really going to find your tribe that way.
Okay.
Yeah. Jim, our time is about up, but I have loved this so much.
This has been great. Like, just like bring me back whenever you want. I mean, yeah, it's fun times.
You're always just so easy and fun to talk to, and I just gained deeper appreciation for you as not only a human and my friend, but a writer and a talented individual and just a spring of creativity. And I'm thrilled that you are doing this full time and that you manifest this. And there's no one more deserving than James Robert Cruz Wylder.
Thank you.
I really mean it. So y'all, please go use Command Warsong or look at the links below and go support him in what he's doing. I've also linked his entire justjameswylder.com so you can see his entire canon there for your enjoyment. Support him however you can because he deserves it. He just deserves it. He's such a good guy. Buy his books. Don't let him flop like his audiobook. Don't do that to him. Don't do my guy like that. Somebody suggest a raid while we close today. But if this was your very first Geek Out Sesh, guys, thank you so much. Please come back. We do this each and every Monday. We're going to have a new guest next Monday, and we can geek out with them and find out what they're into. And it's a good time, and we make friends, and we just gain appreciation for the different ways that people are geeking out and finding their tribe. And somehow, some way, all of my guests are as amazing as Jim. Like, everybody has a heart of gold and is just doing this for the good times. Thanks, and for the follow.
Hey!
Is that your sister?
Maybe.
Oh, I'm
it might very well be. Oh my gosh.
It's just I just love that. Like, I know these people. Like, you're part of my core memories too, Anne.
Well,
this was fantastic. Thanks, she says. But then T will be live again on Wednesday. Moose is streaming. We need to go raid Moose.
Yeah. Shout out to both Audax Ficta and Radio Man 1017 for showing up here today.
Yes, I love when y'all have your people here. Oh, no, don't tell me it's unrecognized.
And Wild Ann, which is my sister. Yeah. Hey.
Oh, you weren't just being coy. You literally didn't know.
I mean, it could be another Ann. I didn't see the screen name until I pulled the thing up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
It's like, that's your sister. Hi, Ann, good to see you, Ann. And then Thursday is our ongoing TTRPG. Speaking of Cloudscape, GM'd by myself, homebrewed by myself, set in a futuristic world where the world has fallen to shit because of an asteroid brought this new kind of essence to the planet that it couldn't sustain, except in the clouds, where it can be distilled and used for positive things. And so now they're living in a cloud, except we barely talk about clouds because there's so much crime and deceit in the political nature of it all that my players just adore. So there's a new episode this Thursday. Check it out. But more importantly, go buy Jim's book. Jim, thank you so much for being here. This was
Thank
magical.
you for having me. This has been great.
Do you remember how we close here at FGBG?
You know, I don't.
Well, we're going to test it. As always, I am Bozer.
And I'm James Wylder.
And until next time, you just keep geeking out. Geeking out. Bye-bye. Stick around for the raid.